They were actually producing over 12,000 cars a day, or sorry, 12,000 a month. They were doing not even 1,000. So within 3 years, because of lean, they were able to get to that objective. Next slide, please. So why get started? Why did I decide to, there's all these different management philosophies, all these different programs that exist. So why did we get started in lean and not pick ISO 9000 or Six Sigma, to name a couple other ones? The Marine Corps really set my mind up for kind of being receptive of lean and really being kind of somebody that wanted to be a change agent, or somebody that wanted to come in and kind of carry on that philosophy, but then looking again for which one of those we would end up on. So we decided lean because it's extremely simple. It's very easy for everybody to understand lean. It's not, if you're familiar with Six Sigma, it's not a whole lot of, equations and process or equations and things like that. It's very simplified. It's all I ask everybody to do every single day is fix something that bugs them. So I ask everybody to fix something every single day that bugs them. So next slide, please. So we got started by reading the book that you'll see there, the 2-Second Lean. That gentleman really, again, simplified the process and made it really easy for our company to understand. I also then brought in Lord Fairfax Community College and had Larry Baker from Lord Fairfax come in and teach our entire company about lean and the lean processes. After we kind of went through reading the book, then having Lord Fairfax, Larry Baker come in, we started with a morning meeting. So every single day we meet for 20 minutes as a company. Then after that, we had to get the right people. So doing this type of a change up, when I got here 10 years ago, there's a lot of people who had no desire to do that. They wanted to come into Signet at 8:30 and leave at 5 and not be kind of bothered and just be left alone. That's not how it was going to proceed forward, because there's just so much room for opportunity to improve on anything. No matter what we do in life, we can always continuously improve. And that's what lean is all about at its core, is continuous improvement. So I had to get the right people on the bus, and then continuous trial and error. We are always putting something into motion and then tracking that. So plan, do, check, act. So you'll hear me in a second, and I'll talk about some of the different benefits of lean. So some of these things I'm talking about right now are kind of big picture, and then I'm going to talk about actual Signet and how did it apply to Signet and what kind of vast improvements it's done for us here. So the benefits, if we could get the next slide, the benefits of lean that anybody will talk about is, ideally, you're going to get lifetime employment. You're going to get people, which is what I'm looking for here and what we've been able to achieve pretty successfully here at Signet is lifetime employees. And it's really hard for us when I'm offering pretty considerably lower income ranges for people than, some of the bigger manufacturers like Amazon or Monoflow, Trex, things like that. I can't compete with them. So this is how I look at being able to not only improve our business, but also make the people want to come to work and actually feel valued and important. Not that any of those other companies don't do that, but something I know that I would be having exact or control over. So really looking for lifetime employee. That's a benefit of lean. You save an ungodly amount of money, which I'll get to here shortly. Gain new customers. So when I first started the whole lean transition here at the company, we went from a 10-day turnaround time to an 8-day turnaround time to now we can turn stuff around constantly in the same day, which has allowed us to gain a large amount of market share in things like political printing, sports printing, because usually when somebody wins on either of those events, you print throughout the night and get it down to market. And we're in a great location here with being an hour from DC to funnel to a lot of those different events I just mentioned. Safe work environment. So one of the big things here we kind of start with, if someone wants to make an improvement, is it safe? If it's not safe, then we're not going to talk about doing it. Entire team working towards a common objective. So it's not now just different factions of the company working towards one objective. We all know what the objective is. We talk about it every single morning, and then we go and execute on that. It's rewarding. It's rewarding to know that they have an input, and I'll show you some of the videos and the great work that my team does on a daily basis. And then again, everyone has input, and not only do they have the input, but it's a requirement to work at Signet to fix something every single day. And again, to try to simplify that, I ask for a 2-second improvement and fix what bugs you. Next slide, please. So what is lean is not. So a lot of people will think and get scared, and it was a common thing that we had here, was you're going to make us all efficient. And now instead of having 8 people do the process, you're going to only need 6. 2 of us are going to get fired. Why am I going to want to help to get my friend fired? So it was big on communication, big on emphasizing that this is not at all here to be a team member reduction. This is all about how do we work more efficiently and safer and so forth. So that's the most important aspect. It took us probably a year to get over that kind of a hurdle and to get the right people on the bus. Like I said, we've been doing this for 10 years and we have a long way to go. And that's part of Lean. Lean's never done. Lean applies to manufacturing only. So it did start out with Toyota, but now I think as we have a lot of healthcare people in our club, I'm sure everyone knows of Lean Healthcare. That's a big one. Or again, Lean applies to all aspects of life. But Lean is not only for manufacturing. It can, if you're a stay-at-home mom like my wife, although she gets annoyed with how often I talk about it, she tries to practice it on how to better raise our children and not be maybe wasting time with having to search for games, or we homeschool. So having to always look for homeschool. Each one of our kids has their own stacks that they're going to work on each day. And she's able to then ideally teach our kids more, and they're more of a value to the society. So Lean is too time consuming. Again, when people hear that we spend 45 minutes approximately a day with 25 people, everyone thinks it's insanity. But again, I'll address why and what you're able to achieve if you just give your people the tools that they need to actually accomplish it. And that's what the bulk of what it is. They need the time now you tell me that this process isn't good, well, then provide me the time to fix it. Lean is all about tools. It's not at all. It's more of a mindset, continuous improvement. Next slide, please. So there's just a couple common tools. Not going to go into too deep on all these different tools, because again, Lean is not about tools. It's more of a mindset and applying it to all aspects of life. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of training within the industry, continuous improvement, the 8 deadly wastes, just-in-time inventory, single-minute exchange of dies, PDCA, which was created by Deming, and then value stream mapping. So those are just a couple of the tools that we will utilize here. I'm more, again, really big on just having our team understanding that there's a problem. Now, how do we start to dissect it and think about that problem? Not necessarily there's a tool there. So every single day, as I mentioned, we start with a morning meeting. So every day, each team member is required to run the meeting at least one day a month. So we rotate everybody doing that morning meeting. Then we have an objective that we're going to accomplish there. So first we talk about happy customers or happy team members. Has somebody else on the team helped you with accomplish something, or did we get good feedback from happy customers? Then we talk about what can we improve upon from the day before. So what areas of improvement, what mistakes did we make the day before? We didn't get an order out on time. We misprinted something, you fill in the blank. And then we will usually assign a team to actually figure out what the solution is. They need 2 to 3 days to dissect it. Then they'll come back and they report to the team on what we're going to do to ensure it doesn't happen again. Safety concerns. We talk about any safety concerns that we might have as a company and how do we address those. Then we talk about education. So what type of education can we all learn? If it's new printing processes, it's new promotional products that are coming out. Then we always talk about a small act of kindness. So I asked that one team member, it doesn't have to be necessarily something that they've done, but what is some type of a small act of kindness either that they've contributed to or that they saw or witnessed? So today, a team member talked about an individual needed to get a ride to the rescue mission, and he was in a wheelchair, and he asked him for money, and he went and got him money from an ATM, drove back to where the gentleman was, gave him the money, and he was able to get to the rescue mission. So just little stories like that, I think, are what really helped to make the environment here at Signet ideal and, again, compete against some of the larger corporations. Then, so we conclude the morning meeting. After the meeting's done, I ask all team members, everybody has a journal that we provide for them to write 10 things that they're grateful for. Again, some of these things might sound odd and off, but really to me, it's a mindset. And as we all know, the world is turmoil right now, and it's more so than it really has been in a really long time. So again, I think everything about life is mindset. I can talk about how much I disagree with half the people in Rotary about how we're handling different things, or I can choose to look about the positives. So not that I disagree with how things are in Rotary, but just as an example, how do we look at that? And how do we, again, look at the gratefulness that we all have in life? So everybody has to do 10 things they're grateful for after the morning meeting. Then after that, they improve the process for approximately 20 to 25 minutes. So that, to me, is the most important part of the day. How are we going to start the day? Are we going to start it off again on a positive, or are we going to start it off with, my life is miserable, everyone's against me, and we all know the rabbit hole that you can potentially go down to in negativity. Next slide, please. So just a couple of different little tools and actual visualizations of things that we actually practice here. So as I mentioned, training within industry, that was coined when we had to have a lot of females enter the workforce who were not used to that back in World War I and World War II. And they started to realize that all the men were off fighting the war, and we don't have good training procedures in place now to train the women who are taking the men's jobs in the workforce. So they started to say, hey, we need to have training within industry. And again, pushing back to the Marine Corps, I knew that no matter what we were doing, if we were going into, a high value individual's house or anything, I knew the person behind me was going to do exactly what we had been training to do for 6, 7, 8 months. And I really was able to kind of look at that and say, how does it correlate to this? And how do we make sure that the training with industry is done? So every single department, we have hundreds of process manuals. So this is a process manual that you can see. So every single day we work a lot on our process manuals and our training within industry, and making sure that every sales rep is going to, talk to a customer the same way. Every person that sets up a press, they're going to set it up the same way. And that right there was a big learning part for our company, because a lot of people didn't like that. They, you're taking away my creativity, you're taking away our freedoms, and all these other kind of thoughts that people had. But again, as I think we all know, if you're taught a sport, I'm not going to just tell. I played lacrosse growing up. If I tell John Elric right now, hey, go to X, he's going to look at me like I'm crazy. That's a position in lacrosse, versus if I bring you to the process manual and I take you out to the field and I actually walk you through that, and I say, here's the training that we're all going to do. That way we can then, when an issue does arise, we can remove a lot of the variables, because we already know we're all doing it the same way. Not he prints different on Monday than David does on Tuesday, and you just open Pandora's box. So process manuals, training within industry. So then we track that. Everybody knows, the next slide, please. This is just a tracking record on every single team member, that we know what they're doing, where they are. So you can just see it's green light, yellow light, red light. So just like a stop sign or a stoplight, everybody is either is efficient, they can do it by themselves, they're in training, or they have not started, they don't know how to do that process at all. So this is the front office. So I have them for each production division. So it makes it really easy. When we first started Lean, we had only one individual who could operate one of our pieces of equipment. That was one of our workhorses. We now have 7, and they're all in almost the exact same level of efficiency to be able to do that. And how much easier that has made my job on scheduling and who we need where, it's been astronomical. So next slide, please. So here's just an example of, again, an improvement in how the cycle kind of goes and what we do here at Signet. So this individual is one of our embroidery machine operators, again, kind of cross-trained his way through the company. He's a press operator, he's a receiver, and he knows how to run our embroidery equipment, which before we started Lean was unheard of. You only did one task, and pretty much one task only before we did this. Now, like I said, this gentleman is able to do 60 to 70% of what we do in a company, when it was usually before 10 years ago, it's like 10% of what we did here. So this gentleman went into our embroidery department and was being trained in embroidery, and started to say, hey, when I go on one machine and I open a drawer, it's completely different than another one. I want to standardize the processes for all required tools for running an embroidery equipment. So this is what it started as. That's the drawer. You'll see he's going to talk about a little bit more than that. So if we can go ahead and show that video. Apologize for the shakiness of the video.
Good morning, welcome to Signet. I'd like to go over some Lean improvements that I've done in my embroidery section here. First, we're going to start out with my tools, which are labeled. This is for when we have a thread break. So I got everything in there. This is my maintenance section. Everything is numbered in GPS. This is for oiling the machine, cleaning it out, any need I might have over there. This is my maintenance log. Shows me when I've oiled my machine and when I'm having problems with specific heads and needles. This is my GPS for what threads I have on the needles and the heads at any given time. Okay, so we've got our scissors, GPS, 2 and 1. Got my magnetic ruler, which I use a lot when I'm doing a setup. And lastly, we have my mechanical pencils and all the tools I use on my hooping devices. Thanks, and have a good day.
So that's a kind of what I ask our team to work on. He obviously included quite a handful of the different improvements he's been working on, but that's what we ask of our teammates every day, is to make those 2-second improvements. Now we have standardized process. No matter what, if I go back there and run the equipment with them, which I do all the time, I know where everything's going to be. And our uptime on our machinery is just, it's grown exponentially. So as you can kind of see, some of the big improvements that we've had, setup time. So to set up a screen printing press, it would take us about 15 minutes or longer. We now have that under 2 minutes. So you can just start to visualize and start to see how many jobs we can now run a day. And as we continue to grow the company, we're not having to add more team members. Turnover, I've had 2 people somewhat recently. One was about 1.5 years ago. One of those large corporations I mentioned, wife, he works at one of them, and they knew that he was he's very good. So they offered him about 30% more than what I pay him here, as well as far better benefits. And he came, he told me, he said, I'm struggling with that. I'm not quite sure what to do, but I'm just telling you what I have on the table. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And he said, I don't want to leave here. I said, okay, well, I can't also offer that. We don't have that at this point in time. He said, I understand that. I'm not going to leave. I just have been struggling with the decision as a family. So I had an individual that passed up on a 30% higher income because he enjoys doing that. I also had an individual quit a few weeks or when COVID started, because he wasn't sure about the stability of the industry. And he came back within 2 weeks and said, I love what we're doing here. I know that with these different practices, we're going to make it through, because we're always trying to figure out how to improve the process. And working at the other place, it was unsafe. It wasn't enjoyable. And I was allowed to have no input. So sometimes it's annoying that you're constantly pushing and asking us for improvements, but I'd far rather take that than what I just came from. So it's been a great testament to what we've been doing here. Rework. So somebody comes in and says, hey, you got to reprint my shirts because you printed them crooked or the wrong image. That's pretty much gone away completely. It went from about 4 or 5% of jobs down to less than 1% that we're having to ever reprint. Company layout, so we completely changed the flow of the company. Part of lean, again, is one piece flow, touch it once. Each time you're touching it, you're decreasing the amount of money you're going to make it on. Instituted a pretty robust software system, and then again, the training within the industry. Next slide, please. So just kind of in wrapping it all up on the whole aspect of lean and what we're doing here, the thoughts I asked some of our team members, I always will ask them, what are you thinking? How are we doing? Is it going in the direction that we want it to? And again, in the whole objective of continuous improvement, if I can't take the feedback and then, how am I again leading by example? So what some of them have told me though, is it's nice to work somewhere that I have input and can make changes. Constantly keeps me thinking about ways to improve, makes my life easier. The one who said it makes my life easier, he's the one who improved the process from setup time of 15 minutes to 2. So as he said, I would get frustrated. It would be a very long process to make the improvements or to set up a press. And now it's in 2 minutes. So my life is a lot less stressed out. So those are just some of the different kind of rewards or the different things that our team members have stated on top of the fact that we have longevity. So that is kind of the bulk of what we've done here in regards to lean and the lean transformation that we've been on here for, like I said, 10 years. I wanted to open it up to questions, and I really like more of interacting with people. This is not my forte. I don't enjoy as much on the Zoom aspect. I like interacting with people and seeing how we can, again, talk about lean, because it applies to all of us. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It applies if you're a stay-at-home mom, like I said, it applies to all aspects of life. So thank you all. What questions do we have?
Hey, this is Pat Kofod. I really appreciate it. I thought it was a great presentation. And I've seen some great examples of lean out in some industrial environments that have done some great things. But I think the most important thing to make lean work is for leadership and management to get the yes. The idea that they don't have all the answers, that a lot of the answers lie within the people that are doing the job. You know, and I think that's what you nailed.
Yeah, most definitely. And to be completely honest, though, in my journey along it, it's something I still have to work on a lot. You know, I went from the Marine Corps that if you didn't get the response you wanted, you physically got the response you wanted. And I was in the infantry, so things worked a lot differently there. And it was in a combat zone, so we didn't have time a lot of it. But I thought that was the right answer a lot of the time. So it was quite the transition for me to go to physically putting on my hands on somebody. And I know that might seem dramatic and crazy to people, but that's how it was. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but then to go to, like you're talking about, Pat, I was very off-putting to people in the very beginning because I wanted it this way. I want to go this, and this, and this is the way that I know that we should proceed versus, more of what you're talking about. I'm going to lead the way and not push you to it. So agreed.
Hey, Dave, Scott Arthur.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, your meetings that you have every morning, how do you handle, well, one, do you have people that show up possibly late to the meeting? And if so, how do you handle that?
That's part of the old David, that my head would explode if somebody showed up late. They know that's just something I don't like. So they know they don't do that. And again, we did have that at the beginning. It was all part of the whole, kind of more back to Pat's, point to me also maybe being a little bit more patient and understanding that, hey, this guy's coming here doing all this new stuff, and maybe being a little bit more lenient. So no one shows up late. We thankfully don't have that issue. That everyone knows that's how we start the day. Like I said, we've been doing it for 10 years. It was an issue in the beginning, and my only kind of feedback or learning would just maybe been a little bit more patient with people and maybe giving them a few days to kind of transition into it, as opposed to, I told you yesterday, you all need to now be here Tuesday at the right time.
Okay.
Hey, Dave, Cyril March. If I'd heard your presentation 10 years ago, I would have really bought in. We had it in healthcare, and I must admit it didn't come across as near as good as you brought it out today. My question is, could you possibly summarize your meeting this morning, the key things that happened just today, to give us a flavor of what you're dealing with?
Yeah, so the one thing that I would just kind of first state is what you just said is that's the normal. I mean, it's really, and I kind of liken it back to what my dad always told us growing up. The hard thing to do is usually the right thing to do. And it's not easy. I mean, again, I've had also people quit over it that were good. Other aspects of them were really good, but they wouldn't, again, I'd say, hey, we just had an issue yesterday. I'm always going to talk to you about it. I'm going to ask you why it happened 5 times. I'm going to ask you all these different questions to try to get to what I want to look at. What I think we've all know is the root cause analysis. What's the root cause of this problem? So many times we throw solutions at things that we don't actually even understand the root. So that's what I would say, 1. But then 2, this morning, we talked about a new contract customer that we got that is really, they were choosing between 2 different companies. And they said that we kept going above and beyond. So that was a really nice, rewarding thing that I could tell to our team members, which again, that already gets the mind. And I try not to be the one that's saying all the positive things. So usually it's somebody else, but today I was the one that stated that because I did receive the message. I like to, again, try to get it off on a positive note. And then we just started talking about the process manuals that I referenced, to the training within the industry. We're really working, this is a slower time in our season. So we're really working on the process manuals and our training within industry. So that was the main discussion of the meeting today.